Over the next few videos, we're going to shift our focus to our location detail screen and get that functionality like all in place. That's, from the directions to the phone to showing the list of users checked in. So we got to handle all the check-in, check-out functionality. We're going to work on this modal screen. But to start in this video, something simple. Let's do the directions in the phone. So for that, let's minimize some folders here and go to our views. Well, first things first. Our location detail view, right? Here it is. We just have the view. We don't have our view model. Well, now that we're going to start doing some logic, first things first, let's create our view model for that. So in the screens folder, right click, new group, location detail view. Hit return. Of course, location detail view goes in there. And then on that folder, right click, new file, new Swift file, hit next, location detail view model. There we go. And then typical view model creation. Again, hopefully this is a review for you by now. We'll do final class location detail view model. That is, guess what? It is an observable object. Cool. Okay. So while we're here, first things first, let's move this over here. We'll start kind of refactoring this a little bit. So Command X, get the columns into the detail view model here. And back in the detail view. Okay, so now we need access to this. Now here's where this is different than what we've been doing previously. All of our view models previously have been state objects, means we're initializing them with our view. Well, our location detail view relies on a location being passed from the previous view. That's what this location is right here. So first things first, let's move this over as well. So cut, we're gonna leave some space up there because we need to have our view model. Back to the view model. We'll do it below the columns here. With grid items, I need Swift UI. So import Swift UI. There we go. Okay, so now our location is getting passed in. So you see we have no initializers. So we need to create an initializer so we can set our location based on the location that's passed in. So that's the pretty basic initializer, init location, which is a DDD location. And what we want to do is self.location equals location. So what we're doing is we're setting this location on line 16 equal to whatever location we passed in the initializer. If I do a Command B, that error should go away. We got other errors, but we'll come back to that. Actually, we'll do it now. In our location detail view, which is up top. You know me, I like my view model on top. I'm weird. Whatever. Okay, let's get access to our view model first. So that is an observed object, not observable, not state, observed object. So this is the main difference between at observed object and at state object. At state object is when you're initializing a new view model in this view. Observed object is when it relies on data from a previous screen and the view model is being passed in from the previous screen, which is what we're going to do because we're relying on the location, right? This is the location detail view that we need a location for. So add observed object var view model is of type. We're not setting it equal. Remember, equals when we're initializing something. It is of type location detail view model. There we go. If I do a Command B, we're going to get all kinds of errors because we need view model here first. So let's handle this screen first because there's a lot of things that we need to put view model in front of. If I scroll down, yeah, Xcode. Remember Xcode doesn't like tell me them all at once. I wish it did. So I'm going to copy and paste this view model dot because we're going to use it a lot. So yep, view model dot columns, view model dot location. Again, I'm just going to wherever Xcode is pointing out the errors to me. And it looks like our preview needs to be updated because that is not how we initialize a location detail view anymore. So our location detail view now gets initialized with a view model. So we'll handle that as soon as all these other errors are done, right? View model dot, cool. Okay, we got our color back. Anytime you see color, good. Okay, so now let's fix our preview here. So to do that, we're just gonna initialize the new location detail view, not view model. And then you see the initializer now takes in a view model. And that view model is of type location detail view model. So we'll go ahead and create that location detail view model. That takes in a location. Well, good thing we have a DDG location. Initialize that with a record. And then we have the record of mock data dot location. So that's pretty long. And again, it's a lot due to the length of the name. Also, again, my screen's blown up super big for the video. It doesn't look that bad on like your normal like screen that you may be seeing. So let's recap this real quick. We initialize the location detail view. That takes in a view model. So we got to initialize the view model to pass in there. And I guess you could break this up on separate lines if you wanted to, but whatever. And then the location detail view model needs to be initialized with a location. So here we create our DDG location with a record from our mock data. That's how we're initializing that DDG location. So all that just to set up the preview. So our view is done. And all we did on the view, just to recap, is add view model in front of everything that needs a location and create our view model, which is an observed object because we are passing it in. So now what we need to do, we'll do a Command B. We should still have errors because we'll click on the errors. You'll see here, incorrect argument label. Right here on our location list view, where we go to the detail view, we are initializing our location detail view the old way. So we're gonna have to use that long one. And again, with my screen blown up, it's probably gonna wrap around and not look great and annoy the hell out of me. But hey, we gotta do what we gotta do. So now the destination of our navigation link is a location detail view. That didn't change. What did change was the initializer, which takes in a view model. The view model we're going to pass in is the location detail view model. And this could be a good argument for like naming this location detail VM, right? Instead of writing our view model. I like to spell it out, but hey, personal preference. So now that needs a location. Well, the location we have is in our list, right? We're iterating through all of our locations in the array, and we have each location here. So that's the location we want to pass in. I'll command minus. There we go. Sorry if that's a little small, but making this one line is worth it to me. Okay, so again, all we changed here is the way we initialize the location detail view. Now it takes in a view model because again, that view model is relying on data from the previous screen, which we're on, the location list view. The data it's relying on is the location, whichever one they tap, and then we pass that location into the view model. So again, if you're not super familiar with when should I use observed object, when should I use state object, when you're passing in data from a previous screen, observed object, when you're initializing a new view model, state object. Okay, let's go back to our location detail view model. Make sure the location detail view is good. Do Command B. I think everything should be all great now. Okay, location detail view. What we need to do now that we got our view model in place, right? You see we have these buttons. We have location action button, and then we have the phone button. So they just don't have actions yet. So what we're going to do here on the view model is create those two functions. So the first function is going to be func get directions to location. And then another func that we'll use later, call location. So now we want to call these two functions on our view model back in our view, mainly so I don't forget. So in the location button, view model dot get directions to location. And then in the phone button, view model dot call location. Okay, so those are all in place. Now we need to actually write the logic to do that, which is back in our detail view model. So we'll start with get directions. Now, the product decision I made for this was to send them to the Maps app because the Maps app is insane. It is way more powerful than anything we could write. For example, MapKit does allow you to like draw the lines on the map from point A to point B and, give a list of directions. And we could have done that. Well, there's two reasons I didn't do that. One, I think that's the worst user experience because again, I think sending them to Maps and getting the full power of Maps navigation, which if you've ever been walking around a city, like it, connects to your watch and taps your wrist. I want them to get the full power of that. That's the best user experience in my opinion. The other reason is like actually drawing the lines on the map and all that stuff in MapKit. We'd have to drop down to UIKit for that and we'd have to like restructure the whole way we do our map. Didn't want to go down that road. And again, I think it is the better user experience to just send them to Maps. And you'll see how that works in a second. To open up the Maps app, we need something called a map item. So we'll say let map item equals, and it is an MK map item. And you'll see I don't have the autocomplete. And you see that threw me. I paused. I was like, wait, what's going on? Because we don't import map kit. And by the way, this is post WDC now. So Xcode 13 automatically imports stuff. Like when I tried to do that and don't get the autocomplete, it'll import that for you. So nice little tidbit for iOS or for Xcode 13 that that little confusion I just had hopefully shouldn't happen anymore. So the map item is an MK map item. There it is. You see, we'll initialize that. It takes in a place mark, which is an MK place mark. Okay, what the hell is a place mark? So let's create a place mark up here. So we'll say let place mark equal MK place mark. Cool. Let's initialize that. Okay, cool. That is initialized with a coordinate. So essentially the place mark is the coordinate of the map item. Like, hey, Maps needs to know like where this thing is. So pass in the coordinate. Well, good thing we have a coordinate, right? Location with our nice naming. So this is our overall location. And then our overall location, remember, has a property called location, that is a CL location, that has a coordinate right there, right? So that's our coordinate for the place mark. So now that we have a place mark, we can initialize this map item with that place mark. Cool. Now let's look at map item real quick. So again, map item is the thing, to put it super simply, the thing in the map, right? In our case, it's going to be our location. So what we can do here is map item, and you'll see it has different properties, right? Is current location, whatever. Name, we definitely want to update. You can update phone number, and then also you see, you can point of interest category, right? Is it a park? Is it a, whatever, time zone, URL. You can like customize things on your map item. I thought about doing phone number and URL and I actually tested it, and they don't show up in the map. So I didn't like leave them there. I thought there might be a little button you could like tap on to call, so that'd be cool. But anyway, we definitely want to update the name, and you'll see why in a second. So the name is equal to location.name. And on that note, you can also add things to the place mark. So we'll do place mark dot, and you see coordinate, country code, this subtitle, title. You can do address and stuff too. I don't know where that's at, but this is where you can give it like the street address and all that stuff. If you need to give more information, we don't need that information. The whole reason we're passing this map item to Maps is so Maps knows our destination, because what it's going to do here automatically for us, we're basically passing in this map item as a destination, and we're going to pass in some options, letting them know we want the walk directions, and it's automatically going to use our user's location as the starting point, and then this map item as the destination, and give directions to it. So let's actually do that right here. So we can do map item dot open in Maps, and then we do want launch options, because this is where we're going to tell it, hey, we want to have walking directions. So you can see this is a dictionary with string any, so we'll do that. And there are like autofill stuff, right? MK launch options, right? All these different stuff. We want directions mode key, because our directions mode is going to be walking, right? Because you can have driving directions, transit directions. We want to make that walking. So this is the key value pair, right? So the key is the directions mode key, and we want MK directions mode walking, right? Because we want walking directions. So by giving this options, it's automatically going to open up walking directions from point A to point B. Point A is automatically going to use our user's location. And on that note, we don't have to worry about permissions, because that user location permissions is actually in the Maps app, which 99.9% of people are going to give the Maps app their location permission, right? It's not our app asking for it. It's the default Apple Maps app. But all the responsibility is on Maps for that. Now that's our specific use case. We won't go down this rabbit hole, but I do want to let you know that you could create another map item with a place mark and all that stuff that's a different location. And if you wanted to get directions from point A to point B between two map items, you can do that and do map item, or MK map item, I'm sorry, dot open. You see open maps, not open in Maps. Well, what this does is this takes in an array. You can see down here, it takes in an array of map items. And if you pass in two of them, you can get directions from point A to point B, like not necessarily using your user's location, right? If you wanted directions from Chipotle to Original Joe's, like that's what you would pass in here. Again, I just wanted to show you that does exist for your general MapKit knowledge. But again, that's not our use case, so we're not going down that rabbit hole. Our use case is just on the map item that we created, do open in Maps, you pass in the walking mode directions, it knows automatically to get directions from our user's location to the map item. So let's test that. We'll run it. Okay, if we go to our locations list, let's do Chipotle, and then we'll hit the directions button here, and see it puts us into Maps, and bam, gives us our walking directions to Chipotle. So this to Chipotle here, this is that map item.name, right? If we didn't do map item.name, it wouldn't say to Chipotle. It would just be blank. So that's the importance of the name. And like I said, there's nowhere to like call or see the website. So that's why I didn't add that. Maybe if you have like call outs or do more with MapKit stuff. But as you can see, we get the full power of Apple Maps from our user's location to Chipotle, rather than trying to like do that ourselves in our app. I much prefer that. So that's how easy opening something in Maps is and getting directions, right? Create your map item and then do map item, open in Maps with the launch options, and it automatically knows, start from the user location, go to whatever map item you passed in. And again, we're creating the map item based on whatever location we're at. Okay, on to calling down here in this call location. This is actually relatively simple. UI application dot shared dot open, and here we get some options with the completion handler. So we need a URL here that we're going to get, because the way this is basically deep linking between apps, and the way it knows what app to open is based on the scheme of the URL. So the URL for the phone is tel. You'll see that in a second. Actually, let's create that now here. So we'll do guard let URL equals URL. We'll initialize that from a string. And that string is tel, like I said, colon, // and then here's where we just pass in the phone number. Well, in our case, we'll use string interpolation for location.phone number. I recommend for your testing, hard code somebody's number in here instead of location.phone number. Like hard code your phone number, a family member's phone number, a friend's phone number to test it, because You shouldn't be testing your app by actually calling Chipotle in San Jose. Probably don't want to do that, especially if many of you are international. And that's another key point is I don't know all the international codes and how phones work all over the world. So your phone number may have to have some different structure to it, but this will work, US phone to US phone number. Just put that out there. I can't account for every single different, country's location code and all that stuff. So keep that in mind in your country. So this is our URL. Well, except the guard is else. We're just going to return for now. So now that we have a URL, we can pass that into that URL parameter. And then I don't need these. My initial instinct was to do nil, but nil doesn't work. So let me show you how I figure this kind of stuff out. Like when I'm not sure, because I don't deep link into stuff very often. So when I'm not sure how to actually do this, just so I don't do it and you just do what I say, I click on command click on the function. So command click on open, and I see like this options, right? It has a default value of an empty dictionary, so I can delete that parameter. Completion handler has a default value of nil, so I can delete that parameter. Okay, cool. So back, we're just going to delete these, just so you know like how I figure that stuff out. I always look for what the default value of the parameters are, so I know if I can delete them or not. So command B, that should work. Now, obviously the phone is only going to work on your actual device. Your simulator doesn't have a phone. So I can't really test this on the simulator. I can show a video of it here, of it popping up. And if you tap that, you will call them. Again, I highly recommend entering the phone number in the proper format of a family member, a friend, yourself, to try to see if that works. And then things like an iPad obviously don't have a phone on it either. So what you can do to check for that, we're not going to worry about all this. I'm just showing you this stuff exists because, we're not making this available for iPad and all that stuff. But you can do if UI application.shared.can open URL to make sure, if you're doing something like this, like deep linking into another app, to make sure that device, in fact, can actually deep link into that other app. So basically you do if application can open URL, then go ahead and open the URL, else, show some error or do whatever. Again, this is one of those threads we're not going to go down because our app is iPhone only. But I do want to point that out. When deep linking, you should definitely keep that in mind, especially if you're supporting like multiple different devices. And what we can do here to be thorough, instead of just returning, because what happens there, if that we can't create a good URL from our telephone number, like our format of our phone number is messed up, it would just return, which means nothing would happen. Here we definitely want to, show an alert. So let's go to our alert file real quick. Again, I told you the alerts really add up in like a bigger app. And this is still even a small app. Imagine like a really huge app. Okay, so that's in utilities, alert item. Down here, I guess we'll create a new section here. Instead of profile view errors, we are going to do location detail view errors. And it's not invalid profile. This is invalid phone number. And again, if you wanted to do like invalid device, if you did want to do that can't open URL, this is what you would do for that. So we'll say invalid phone number. Say the phone number for the location is invalid. Please look up the phone number yourself. I don't know. I'm just having fun with this now. We're writing so many alerts, but of course, you would write the proper alert there. So back to location detail view model, we would do, we don't have an alert item. So let's go ahead and add that, right? So we'll put that up at the top actually at public. You know what? I'm just going to show you what I really do. Just being honest, go to the profile view model. I just copy, go to location detail view model, paste, and then back to profile view here, because I know I have that. Again, this code, this alert code here, which actually someone showed me in the comments, I believe it was Stuart Lynch, showed me a nice way to clean this up. I think we're going to do that in the optimization section. So coming soon, maybe. I got to look into it. So anyway, on our location detail view, above the navigation title, let's go ahead and add our alert here. Again, that's that boilerplate code. I told you I copy and paste from screen to screen. So now that our alert item is set up, back to the location detail view. In our call location, we will do alert item equals alert context dot invalid phone number. So we will show that if the phone number is in fact invalid, something messes up, who knows what can happen. But showing them this is much better than just having them tap the button and nothing happen, which is what would have happened if we just left the empty return there. And okay, I'll show the video of this working. This is what it should look like. Of course, you can't test this on your simulator. Run this on your own device. Again, hard code a real phone number that you can actually call in there to test it to make sure it's working. But that is our getting directions and getting the phone working on our location detail view. Now let's move on to creating this modal view that you see here and getting it showing up.